As we welcome Rekha Basu to the desk as it's time for Rekha's Voice. Find out what's on Rekha's mind this morning. Give you a chance to speak up.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Jackie and I had a lot of fun last night. We were both at the last Smart Talk Women's Lecture Series, possibly for the season, possibly forever. We both play a role.
We'll see what happens there. But yeah, no, we've been talking all morning. Thanks to everybody who came out to see it and support it last night with Joy Behar. We're looking forward to see what the future brings. But you're having another conversation we're going to have.
I have another conversation, yeah. I'm talking, my column today is about a sentence, a criminal sentence in the case of a worker at the now closed state children's home in Toledo, Iowa. He was accused and actually convicted on Monday of slamming a 15-year-old girl's head against the wall, against a concrete wall in an isolation room, stepping outside the room and allowing her to slam her own head against a wall 95 times.
Oh my goodness.
Dragging her down a hallway, keeping her in a hold, in a prohibited hold, and a variety of other things. And this man was allowed to take what's called an Alford plea, which acknowledges that there is enough evidence to convict you, but it's not a clear admission of guilt. He got to pay a $315 fine, 1 year of self-supervised probation, doesn't even have to report to a probation officer, and then it's expunged from his record completely. And so if he tries to go and get a job at another youth home, nobody will even know about this unless some Google search turns it up, because it won't be part of the record. And this is just, I would say, the final straw in what has been an ongoing scandal involving the state children's home, which was, first of all, it was the subject of a Register investigation a couple of years ago now, and was subsequently closed because of all the problems. And they found that the home had illegally and improperly used isolation rooms where they had put these troubled young girls for months on end. You are never supposed to do that. It's supposed to be a stopgap measure, you know, to ease an immediate crisis. And these are girls, this one was a 15-year-old, these are girls between the ages of 12 and 17 who have been sent there because they're children in need of assistance, because maybe they've come from an abusive household, or their parents are drug addicted, or can't care for them, or they're of danger to themselves. The last thing you need to do is then jeopardize their safety yourself as a worker. So, faced with this crisis, what did the governor decide to do? He decided to shut the home down instead of letting heads roll and making changes and insisting on changes to protect this girl's safety. And so now what's happened is, these girls were just released and there was no place for them to go because there was no comparable setting. So this kind of fulfilled a political agenda of privatization and getting the state government out of various programs and services, but it did nothing for the girls, and now this conviction is like the final slap in the face. So I just think the whole thing is appalling. It's a case of real justice denied here.
What happens now? You said they were just released into the world?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's happened to most of them. I don't know where the girl is now. She would now be about 17. I contacted the people who were identified in some court papers as her parents, but there has been a transfer of her custody since then, so I think that there's another guardian, and apparently this guardian agreed to the deal. So I don't know if the girl is living with them, if she's living on her own. She's pretty close to being independent at this point, so who knows what will happen. And I asked the parents, the original parents, if they would comment on this deal, and they said no comment. They didn't want to get involved. So, who knows what the backstory is there. But a 15-year-old girl, and this worker had been called in to assist because she was having, she was fighting with some other people. You have to be really skilled and trained to have this kind of job, and how to diffuse a situation, how to talk someone down, how to calm them down. You don't escalate things. You don't escalate things by slamming their head against a wall
and then
or leaving when they're doing that to themselves. So they'll just harm themselves, and you have plausible deniability. You didn't do anything. I mean, I just feel like in too many instances there's this rage that clicks in. And he admitted to some of this, the worker, but he said it was a spike in his blood sugar level because he's a diabetic. I have never heard of a spike. I mean, that sounds to me like the Twinkie defense. Remember the infamous Twinkie defense where some criminal back in New York said,
jacked up
blood
on
sugar.
Twinkies,
right,
yeah.
exactly. So that's what he had to do. So.
But why was he able to use that certain provision in the law? Why was he able to use that to get off in this situation? Was
the Alford plea?
Yeah.
Because the judge agreed to it. You know, because the judge agreed to it. The
They just
prosecution, they
brought
said
it
he had no
forward.
prior criminal history. So the fact that he had no prior or criminal history is not persuasive to me. If a parent had been caught doing this to their own child, there would be major criminal sanctions. You know, they could go to jail for it. He should have gone to jail for it.
Right.
So it's just a miscarriage of justice all around, and it just points to how poorly this whole situation with the Toledo.
Well, what can be done about it? Anything, or is it beyond?
Is the state working to create a better facility?
No, the state wants to get out of the business
completely.
altogether. Yeah, wants the community to pick up. And one of the problems is, you know, the records in this case, there was a videotape that was made, which is how this all came to light, of all of these incidents. This guy, by the way, the worker lied and said the whole thing, the whole confinement thing had happened within the frame of 1 minute. And the video showed everything that happened. It was 11 minutes. But the Des Moines Register was not allowed to see it because there was a court ruling that said that it would reveal her identity. And the Register didn't want to reveal her identity. They said, you know, blur her face and just show us what happened, the actions. But the judge ruled against that. But there was an unemployment. He filed for unemployment when he was fired for his job, because he was fired from his job after this. And at that hearing, various supervisors testified that they had watched the video and that what he did was just completely inappropriate and improper and illegal.
Wow.
So
Wow. It's very
sad story.
So how do you make it known more publicly, even though it's not going to be on his record, so he doesn't get in a position where he could hurt somebody else?
Really good question, Jackie. I mean, we just hope that people Google it or look up the, you know, any kind of media. But if he leaves the state and goes somewhere else, he won't have followed. They won't have followed any of the coverage about this. So who knows?
All right.
You know.
Get more details on this thing. Grab a copy of the paper.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, good to see you. Thanks
Nice
for coming
to
over.
see you
Thank you,
too.
Rekha.
We'll see you next week. It is 10 minutes before 9 o'clock. We'll be right back. You're watching Great Day Live on KCWI.